I caught me drinking my water. But thank you for jumping back on here, please. Really appreciate it. And I don't know. Again, I don't know what's happening because we're pretty familiar with this thing. And yeah, I still don't see you here to show that you're present. I see your response, but I don't see you here. Hey Twyla, how are you? That's my auntie, y'all. But I don't see you there. Yes, you should be able to request it as well. But I also sent the invite, so yeah. And it's funny, Will, because even like I'm looking at you all and I don't see you, I don't even see you on here, right? So I see your comments, but I don't see you as one of those who are watching, which is interesting because you all can see and hear me. That's very interesting. But I don't see you on as a viewer. Let me say that. So perhaps maybe it could be how you're viewing, but I don't see you on as an actual viewer. But I am seeing your comments. I'm seeing all of that. Brother James, I see that you're back as well. And I don't know, but it is not going to be the same. There's no way we're doing this without you. That's for sure. Hey, Brother James, it really is. I'm telling you. Okay, so Will, now I see you on. Maybe now I see you on there as a viewer. Even in that, it's still not allowing me to add you. I think you may have stepped off of there. Okay, so I see you there. Okay. I'm doing everything I know to do, and it may have to be right. My wife is telling me I may have to call you. But it's just not the same, man. It's not the same. Yeah, okay, there we go. Oh, no, I see you, Will. I saw that. All right. I saw your request, but I don't see hers. It came right up when you did it. So whatever you did, if you can get her to do that, what you did, but it popped right up as soon as you sent the request. I did see it. So while that's happening, and I'll keep watching for the request. Brother Malik, how are you, brother? Haven't seen you in some time. I'm in Dallas now, so when I come back to Chicago, pardon me, I'll be looking for you. We'll have a lot to talk about, especially with this gold and silver and this currency. Man, the way this thing is going, a lot of what we used to talk about, we're seeing it happen right now, right now. So that's a beautiful thing. So what I'm going to do while we're waiting on that, I'm going to share some things that I got just a few days ago, okay? And this is, in terms of, now this is something, it is spiritual, right? But there we go. There we go. I see. I sent it. Brother Dwayne, how you doing, brother? matter of fact, you know, I don't know if you know, but our babies know each other in school, which I thought was real interesting. Because they came home and they told me, they said, I forget your daughter's name, but they said, yeah, she said that you might know her parents, you know. And when they told me it was you, I said, absolutely, I know them. So here we go. All right, I got you. I got you on. Hey, Sanji. Um, now, and I'll tell you what. You know what? I think it'll be a good idea to go back and play that clip again that we played a few minutes ago because it brings a lot of context into what we're talking about, right? Um, and basically, what it is saying is that, man, don't get hung up on the hashtag, you know, Black Lives Matter. Don't get hung up on black. Uh, you can't hear me? You still can't hear me? Can you all hear me now? I don't know. You all able to hear me? So I've seen your request is saying that you're declining it, but I hope you can hear me. Yep, it's saying that you're declining it. So I'm not sure what's happening. Um, but again, I don't want us to get caught up on this black talk, right? Because what we're dealing with is we're dealing with, okay, thank you, Will. We're dealing with black is not a color. It's really not even a race, but it is the essence of color. Thank you, baby. I see. I see. I'm trying to add you. I see it on the screen saying it's adding, but you're not. Still not showing up. It's just showing that you are adding. So it says that you declined. So I don't know what's happening with that. I'll send it again. Uh, okay. Maybe you can try it now and see. Um, but it is. I do see the request was sent. Um, and I'm telling you, it's so funny, man. I did this earlier, right? Because I said I'm not gonna do this again like last week. I'm gonna get this thing right. And I was sitting here, man, a couple hours in, and I was like, yeah, I'm starting to run it, and I'm looking at seeing, oh, but it's not gonna work. So I won't do that. I'll just do this. I'll make it simple. And now this is me making it simple, right? So yeah, it tells you how that worked out. But are you able to see? How about that? I just sent another one. Hopefully you can see that and come right on with it. So I think I see you. Yeah, is that you? No. So
Ha! I'm on the phone.
hey, there it is.
This is crazy as tarnation. I told you we should have practiced. I tell you, you don't listen.
It is crazy, but it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same I
Well, wait a
didn't
minute.
if I didn't go through this because it's going to be so worth the information. Like Brother James is on here. He said you having problems because that means it's going to be a good show, and I promise you, it is going to be a good show. I see you got your T-shirt on. Y'all see the T-shirt, right? The Black Lives Matter, and it's a movement, right? This is what we're doing. So before we get into everything, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up uh, this video clip, right? And I played it a few minutes ago, but I'm gonna play it again.
I heard it.
And you did hear it. Okay, good. And so dealing with I know, huh? Yay! It is dealing with the essence of black, how we get caught up on, we look at someone and say, oh, that's a black person, that's a black person, that's a black person. and we'll say, oh, but he African. Oh, she Jamaican. You know, as if we're not black. And so we've even gone as far as to say that, oh, that's Mexican. Oh, that's a Native American. They Indian, as if these are not black people, right? And so, yeah, Muhammad said that we're all original people. Well, we lost her, but we're going to get her back on. But he said that, no, we're all the original people. And as a matter of fact, he said, he didn't just say people, he said brothers and sisters. So that, and reminded us of a history that while we were, you know, our ancestors were running from these plantations and escaping from the slavery, that they ran into a land, many of the lands of which they call Mexico, and the rest of different parts of Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, California. They went on the run for their lives, and they were welcomed in by groups and families that today we may call the Native Americans or the Indians. Well, they aren't realizing Muhammad said they welcomed you in because you may not have known who you were, but they knew you were family. So they said, yes, come on in. We got you. So from that perspective, all right, about what black is and what black isn't, we don't want anybody to get hung up on that. And don't miss the information, man, because you hung up on the title, all right? Please don't do that. But thank you. I'm glad. I'm so glad that we got you on. And so for those who've been patiently waiting, thank you, thank you, thank you. And share this again, please, you guys. Please react, love it, like it, share it, invite people, please. Have them come on. But we have, and you can see in the title, you see Sister Audrey Mann, okay? And that's probably the only time you're going to hear me call her that, right? Because this is Auntie Audrey. She is, she's another mother to me, okay? And I can say that because my mother always referred to her as her sister. And she was there, she knew me before I was born. So, and please don't tell on me the stuff that I used to get whooped for.
Don't tempt me.
I'm trying to project a certain image here, you know. but I used to get whoopings, all right? And she can tell you why I used to get my butt whooped because some of the stuff I used to do. But she's not only, and I'm gonna see if I got this in the right order. She's not only a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, the grandmother, and a great grandmother. Now, see, this is the kind of stuff that blow your mind because you're looking at her and you say, that's not nobody's great grandmother. And yes, it is. I was just with her great grandbabies yesterday. Yes. And now they're not grown, right? They babies. But to understand that all of those roles and responsibilities that come, because they all don't carry the same responsibility, but they are all feminine roles to play, and the value in them, it's invaluable. Okay. And so anyone who wants to try to equal the male to the female, I have to say that you really would be sadly mistaken. You know, and it goes back to that old saying, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You can walk around the house and say how much of a man you are and how much you think you should be over the woman, but you came from a man. Or you came from a woman, pardon me. And, you know, it's obvious by those who are parents, those who may have grown up in single parent homes, those who may say, well, I never knew my father. Well, that tells you that all he had to do was plant the seed. But everything else that brought you into existence was with your mother and based off of her relationship with God. So in that, yes, not just Black wives, but Black women matter. And because, like I said, I come from a Black wife, a Black woman. I'm married to a Black wife and a Black woman. And our daughters will hopefully, if I approve of them, will be Black wives, and mothers in that order. All right. So, how are you, first of all?
Well, I'm frustrated, but now I'm calm. I'm calming down. I'm just okay. I don't know what I told you we should have practiced on my laptop, but
You did.
it works on the phone, but it's different on the laptop. Don't ask me why. I don't know.
Yes, ma'am. And so there are a lot of things that we are going to cover, and part of it, I want to be clear. So if you all looked at the if you looked at the title, the title of the broadcast itself, right? So it lets you know that we have this awesome guest, right? And I say awesome because you are going to be in awe of some of the things that she says. Hey, Bobby Perkins, how you doing, brother? Another childhood friend. But these were my words, and I want to be clear. These were my words, and she called me on it. And it wasn't that I didn't expect her to call me on it. I knew she would, but I didn't know it was going to come before the broadcast or during the broadcast. But I knew I would get called on it, and I was ready for it because these were my words. She didn't tell me to do this, but I'm saying it, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying it. And when we finish, you're gonna know I'm not lying. It says financial advisor. After the daughter, all the way down to great grandmother, right? The financial advisor, a pastor, a minister, relationship and parenting counselor, a wife, a mother, a friend, and she is the Sister Audrey Mann. She's also the National Supreme Associate Matron of the Order of Eastern Star. And what that means is that there are a lot of other women, from young women, 18 years old, up to even some that may be her elder, that she has the awesome task and responsibility of helping to guide into a certain type of woman that will be pleasing to God. That's not a responsibility many will try to handle. Some won't even attempt it. But she's been working in this role for some, and I can tell you, I know for a fact when my mother joined the Eastern Star chapter in Los Angeles, I was 13 years old. Okay. So we're talking over 30 years she's been doing this.
We joined
Okay.
together.
So this is over 30 years alone. All right. And some of us haven't been doing anything for 30 years straight. And this was consistently. Now, I believe I'm going to be correct in making the statement, but I'm sure you correct me if I'm wrong. That's been consistently. That hasn't been time to where you say, well, you know what, I'm not going to be active for a while. You know, I'm going to sit down, and then you came back. You whole time. Yeah. See, everybody's not built like that. So let's start with that. Some of us just aren't built like that. God. Woo. Yes. So, Black Wives Matter. Uh, Tell us why. Well, before we get into that, there's two parts of that I want to get to: Black and then why. When did you first realize, at what age can you remember that you realized that you were Black in America?
Well, I come from a generation where I was raised on the West Coast. I was born in Dallas, Texas. My father moved to the West Coast when we were, little kids, right? But then we came home every year. So we had to be trained to travel. We didn't have interstates. So we had to be trained to travel in a car from San Diego to East Texas, outside of Mount Pleasant, Naples, Texas, outside of there, right?
So you're saying there was a training that came into play as a child about how to travel because you were Black.
To travel as a Black person, right? Because in California, we had, it was integrated, semi. because we were redlined and only could live in certain areas anyhow. So most of my friends, we grew up with black folks, not realizing why, but we had Mexicans and a few whites. But we couldn't buy, my parents couldn't buy in certain areas because they couldn't get loans. So it was a segregation at that point, but we didn't know. We thought we were free, right? Anyway, but bottom line, when we traveled, we get to El Paso and everything changed. That was the halfway mark. As soon as you hit El Paso, everything is colored only. We couldn't
Wow.
we couldn't go through any front doors. So we had to be trained to travel.
What year did this take
I'm in
place?
the 50s. I was born in 1950. I'll be 70 years old next month.
Come on,
So
y'all
we
see that?
traveled.
I told you didn't know. See, you thought I was playing when I said great grandmother, y'all. Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
All right, so I need to put a do not disturb because every time something come in and throws me off. But anyway, so what happened is my grandparents, both sets of grandparents lived in East Texas. So we traveled every year, right, in a car because we couldn't do anything else, right? So it was 5 of us. And so you knew you were black because you were less than in, period. You had to go colored only. Of course, the bathrooms were jacked. And then we couldn't go in any front doors. So we had 2 different types of lives if you had to travel from the West Coast to East Texas. And in 1964, we moved back to Texas, and I went to school in a segregated school, right? We didn't stay there but a year though. I'm so glad of that. Then we moved back to Los Angeles. Right in the middle of the Watts riot. Somebody asked me, "Oh, Grammy, how many riots have you seen?" I've seen riots. Now they're doing civil protests, peaceful protests. Pissed off and they rioted and burned up everything they could. So it was a different, even the Rodney King. It wasn't nobody going. And I say that all the time. I say, if you cutting off my arm, don't tell me how to scream. We were rioting back then. Okay, so anyway, now it's peaceful protests. But so yes, I knew as a child that we were black and it was different.
So now this is as a child, and we talking in the 50s and the 60s, right? So now you are being, it's a part of your upbringing that what we might call today code switching and how we talk, you really had to learn the code of coming down south, of just how to survive. It wasn't because you had a job and you was making money and you could talk this way just to make your money. This was just to live.
Now, there's 2 sets of codes. Keep in mind, even in California, as an adult working in corporate America, there was codes, right? Right. I elevated through I started with Security Pacific with your mother. We started together, and Bank of America brought him out. But I went from a clerk typist to a senior vice president, and retired from that company. So you knew I had to know how to work it in order to work through their system. But in any event, when you look at the different worlds over the years, the span of years, 50s, 60s, because in 64, keep in mind, I told you I was there in 64. Well, I also experienced where one of the young teenagers, I was going to school in East Texas, went into the front of a restaurant. It wasn't even a restaurant. It was a hotel with a little cafe in there. Went and sat down to be served because they had passed that civil rights law, right? We're equal now. We're free, right? And he was found hanging in the woods the next day. So they were segregated until, I don't know, I guess it was in the 70s when they finally decided the colored school became the elementary, and the white school became the junior high and high school. But it was in the 70s. So that's because that was way in East Texas. So, and it's still, that's where we have the acreage. And I was there Saturday, and every place we passed, every homestead we passed had Trump, Pence. So it's still a racist place, but everybody know everybody, right? So it's peaceful because everybody know everybody, and everybody down there basically stays in their place. And I'm going, I don't think they're ready for me yet, but I'm going anyway. I'm going to make it up. But anyway, So
Yeah.
to see the difference. See if, and then I think my and Will's on the phone on the live. He asked me. I think he was in college up in UNT, or might have been Oklahoma. I don't know where it was. Somebody was doing a paper. They wanted to ask the difference growing up on the West Coast or the North versus being able to experience what was happening in the South. Well, I had a little bit of both, right?
Mm.
And it was, you thought you were free. You really did. You thought you were free. There was some freedom. There were some benefits in being on the West Coast because at least it wasn't in your face. It was subtle, and you had to recognize the game, or you would fall for it, right? But you had to recognize the game, and again, it was night and day, night and day. Still go to Texas, and you better, and all the black folks on this side of the track, all the white folks on that side of the track. And Bill will tell you, when we moved to Texas, when was that? We moved here in 1999, and he came. I only brought him. He was the baby, and he went to Duncanville High, and we went to a homecoming game. And me, I'm me. And I said, it was a game between DeSoto and Duncanville, right? And so he says, I said, we got to go early because I don't like a whole lot of people. I want to get my seat, and I don't want to be bothered. So we go, and I said, let's sit right here on the 50-yard line. He says, Mom, well, it was next to not on the 50-yard line. It was next to the people because they had better seats. If you had to pay a different ticket. I wasn't paying. So right there, and he says, Mom, we need to go over there. And I said, why we need to go over there? He says, okay, we'll sit here and you'll see. As the stadium filled up, all these white folks is here and all the black folks is over there. I said, what the hell? I ain't moving. What's going on? And what his counselor, because he would ask the same question earlier about why lunches were segregated. But people gravitate to where they're comfortable. They gravitate to their people of culture. They gravitate that way. It's not mandatory. It's a natural separation, right? Yeah. So, and that's how it still is in Naples, Texas.
Now I'm glad you gave us that timeline, right? Because it really gives a lot of good context to what we're dealing with right now and the subject matter at hand. Now, you just gave us a history of Texas from the time you were a little girl traveling with your family from California and up to where you bring your son to high school. And you can still see the same activity.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how we try to ignore that it exists. And we try to give attention to other things to try to downplay it as if it doesn't exist. But did you find yourself having to teach your children what?
Well, not with my girls. I was more cautious with my son because we had one experience out here. Now I was more relaxed, obviously, on the West Coast. When we moved here, it was a different story, right? But even on the West Coast, he had to know some things, right? And when we moved from Compton, I was straight out of Compton. I went to Compton High.
I hear that. Walk up on it if you want to.
So when we moved to Ontario, it was a more mixed neighborhood, right? And so his friends and his friends and neighbors, our neighbors weren't all black. We was just a mixed neighborhood. So it wasn't as but then when we went to Compton, we had to know how to everybody start rolling up what I'm saying. We had to just have it was a street environment versus a suburban environment, right? So you always had to not only do the talk with police, because we had what was that guy's name? The one that our dang on police chief was just out of control. But then he had to know how to act on the streets of Compton as well.
Yeah.
With our people. It's a different culture, right?
Right.
So when we had a grocery store, a little neighborhood grocery store, down the street from where we lived that I used to send the kids to the store. The whole family was shot.
Wow.
Disturbed thing on this call, on this thing, but sorry.
It's
Anyway,
okay. You got
so what I'm trying to say is, you always have to. I know we have a different level of covering our kids than our friends that haven't been kissed by nature's son.
okay. Yeah. And so, earlier today there was I was reading an old article, right? And it was about
Mm,
Raven Simone.
mm,
And Raven Simone, when she came out, with Oprah and her Twitter post and so forth. But when she made the statement that she said, I don't want to be called an African American. She says, I'm an American, right? And so it's this type of thinking is aligned with when we look at her status, and some of us will say, well, we want the money and the life that she has. We want those things. And so it's put in front of us to promote for us that, and she's just one of the many, and I've been saying this for a long time, these children who come, that when they work for Disney, and they have a history of when they're children, they're there, but when they come out as adults, they generally have some social ills, and they
well,
tend to catch a lot of hell.
but let me
I don't know
let me
what it is about the Disney culture,
well
but what is
let me
promoted
give
to
you a
the.
flip of that, Brandon. Let me flip that. Let me
Mhm.
stop, because we have issues with each generation, right?
Okay.
Of who we are. Thinking, and I've always been that Angela Davis type of attitude, right? And so I came here to plan. I got on our family reunion committee. We have people in another generation older than me that won't recognize that I'm not from Africa. They want to
Mm.
forget, or they don't want to accept the fact that we do have a place we're from, right? They
Mhm.
don't want to be connected to the vision that people have bought into, that nothing but savages live in Africa, so they don't want any part of that. So it's a
Mhm.
lot. We have a gap in knowing who we are truly, and that goes to your Black wives as well. I'm going to say
Mhm.
that because
Absolutely.
of the culture that I'm changing subjects real quick. Not really, but we're shifting. I'm gonna shift to the fact that there's some young girls right now, this generation. I've seen where we were dressed nice and wanted to impress. When we tried to impress, right? For real,
Mhm.
dignity. Even in the brothers, we tried to impress. You get laid. I mean, your hair be all, you know. And now I look at these kids and I'm going, what? And with the pants, they're not dressed, and it's like, what? That doesn't look good. That doesn't look good at all. So I'm saying there's a loss self-identity with the every
That's it.
generation. And it could be our fault, the older generation's fault, for not
Mm.
telling. And that hit me yesterday when you asked, did my kids cook? Well, no, they cook stuff I never cooked. I'm not gonna say they don't cook. They cook stuff I didn't cook, and my mama didn't cook. Like the all kind of dishes. I'm going. So they say they can cook, but when I say, when you ask me the question, can they cook? And I said, no, I was referring to going in there and from scratch
Right.
make a meal.
Right.
They
Right.
can't do
Right.
that. They can't do that, right? They can't mix up something and don't have nothing in the kitchen to come out with a full meal. They can't do that. That's what
Yeah.
I call really cooking. When you can go in there and make something out of nothing, right?
That's right.
And everybody get full. So
The way Mama did it.
that's the way my mama did it, and her
Yeah.
mother. Well, my kids don't do that. So we lost something in raising our children, right?
Mhm.
So we lost something in our DNA, in our self-identity, but not keeping the story going. And some old folks didn't want to tell it because they were embarrassed. Picking cotton ain't no fun. But my mom
Mm.
used to tell me all the time, she had to walk to school to get to the one schoolhouse She had to walk miles and miles, and when it rained, she got to ride the donkey while her brothers held the donkey until she could get to
Wow.
school. So I said, I used to say it all the time, Mama, don't tell me about the donkey and the riding to school, please. But I remember those stories now, and I know that really puts a picture to the what they had to
Wow.
really go through just to get a book, and the book was tore up. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the fight, and we've gone through the last couple of years. We've gone through seeing more like with John Lewis, seeing the person that lived through that, and then when they did the Selma movie again and all that,
Right.
and I said we lost something. It's our fault. We didn't continue the story to make it vivid in our families so they could tell the next generation and that's scripture. We're supposed to tell it. And I
That's
think
right.
even in the kitchen.
You know, it's interesting you bring up Congressman Lewis, John Lewis. When I was watching his service, you know, I watched some of it, and I'm not big on the funerals and things, you know, but part of me that cut it off was I was embarrassed, right? And I was embarrassed because I didn't know more of his history. And I was like, wow. It's like, man, I just looked at him as this politician, you know, and I'm just not big on politics. But, and you know, we have our debates on politics.
Yes, we
But
do.
I was so embarrassed, you know, like, wow, man, I didn't really see his true value in the fight, in his sacrifice, you know. And so to understand, and it brings us right back to the subject matter of what it is to be Black. See, we can try to identify it, say, well, and depending on the generation, I totally agree with you. Some of them will say, man, why your pants hanging off of you, and you know, why you eat noodles with Doritos crushed up in it, and you know, they say, man, this is what Black people do. Then that's how they identify as being Black. But then you have some of us that look and say, man, I didn't get no noodles until, you know, I had to sneak noodles, or, you know, there are some Black people, and when I say Black, again, like we said earlier, we're referring to what is known as the Black, the Latino, the Indian, right? That's our family. So I ain't never had that till they went to jail. And, you know, where it becomes a delicacy. Some of them didn't have it until they were poor and put in poor community. Everybody didn't grow up like that, you know. I remember the very, very first time I saw my grandmother, my mama's mama. She had a pack of top ramen, and I just looked at her. And I was like, you know, what is she doing? And I saw her take this packet and she threw it in the trash. And I had never seen ramen noodles before. But you know, she was a chef. She went to LA Trade Tech and got her associates in culinary arts. And so, you know, I didn't know Granny's a chef. I'm just watching. But when she gave it to me, it was all this butter in it. It was like these fresh herbs. It was like all of this stuff. And she took that pack, even though she knew uh, it didn't match her caliber of cookie, but she had no sense to know not to use that seasoning pack. You know, she threw it away. And so that was my introduction to ramen noodles. So when I started hearing about what other people were doing, and I was like, you put what in it? It's like, nah, you're supposed to cut up some parsley, man. You're supposed to saute some onions. You know, you're not supposed to do that. And so as generations go, and my mother was guilty of it. She even told me, she said, I don't cook like mama. And it was a point in her life to where she did not desire to do it. She didn't want the life that she thought her mother had. And so as we talk about your mother, right? now this is into what was your introduction to wifery, to being a wife. What was your introduction of a wife? What was that like?
Well, again, I shared with you yesterday that my mother. See, this is the deal. When you're young, back in the day, your concentric circle was the people that you know, went to school, you worked, you did all this, and everybody kind of grew up together, and then you married within that circle. Because that's how far you went. You didn't go out of your area. Now we're all universal, and everybody. Wasn't no Mexicans in no dang on Texas, in East Texas. You had white folks and you had black folks. Wasn't even no Mexicans. My grandmother didn't even know what a taco was. I'm telling you, we had to bring it from San Diego. So it was white folks and black folks back then. So your area, you married the people that you grew up with. So my father, he, you know, being I think he thought he was just real smart. He was real smart, but his goal was to leave. He was not going to stay. His goal was to leave, but he wanted a wife that he could train. So my mother was about 17. She had 5 kids. What every year we were stair step. I'm the oldest, and I used to watch her. I said, I'm not doing that.
It's okay. What happened, y'all? She's actually getting notifications on her phone, and so she's trying to stop them from happening so it doesn't interrupt the broadcast. But as you can see, man, beautiful. You can, if you're listening, you can tell a story, man. A very valuable story is going to come out of this. But thank you for watching. Please continue to share it, like it, love it. Just please continue to share it on other pages. Because this is information, you know, this is one of those sit at the feet of the elder type conversations. I love talking to her, you know, and it's because of everything what you're hearing right now.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. I should have put on do not disturb.
Yeah, you're back, and we get it. You know, we're getting it fresh, so we're getting it live. So share it, guys. Share it, please. Just continue to share it. Share it in different groups. You know, you can share it in Messenger and inbox other people. But you know this information is good. So I'm sorry. So before it cut off, what you saying that your father wanted a wife he could train.
Right, that he could train. So and my mother. So I'm all my life I'm looking at this, right? And I'm the oldest, so I was responsible for everybody under me. And my mother didn't even get her driver's license. My dad would take her to the post office, to the grocery store, to the back. She had never gone anywhere by herself because he was training her, right? To take care of his kids, his house. And I'm telling you, there was 4 girls, and cook and clean and all the job. She had a full-time job at home. And that's why I said, I'll never be a stay-at-home. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So I never even, I knew I was going to try to go to work, take care of myself, because I wasn't going to have nobody. Like, I wasn't going to be my mother. Now, she didn't get her driver's license until I was in junior high school. And then she started getting out a little bit. And then that's where all the little, you know, stuff, I said, oh, go ahead, Mom, because then I was trying to help her. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to say is, I did not want to be a wife like that. Right? But I also have that contrast where I came from a 2-parent family home. My dad was the breadwinner, and my mother took care of my dad at home, and he took care of us. We did, we had, like I was sharing, he had those shirts that you could just wash and wash, what do you call it? With no iron. But we still had to starch he had to starch it and iron all this stuff. We had to cook. When we cooked, he had his, all he had to do was sit down. We put his plate in front of him, and then all he had to do was get up. And then we had to go clean up. Nobody ate until my dad ate. I grew up in an environment that everything came through him. And my mother just obeyed. And I just wasn't gonna do it.
Now, let me ask you, in that, right? Because we all have, you know, we have hopes and dreams as children. And especially when you're young, you watching your family and you process information, you know, from a child's perspective, from a child's mind, even a young adult, just the way you process it. And it's normally later on in life when we start to actually see the value and what was happening. we and I'll speak for myself. You know, I would look in our home and I would be like, man, my wife ain't gonna talk to me like that. You know, and the way my mother talked
I
to
know
my
your mother.
father. And so, and now I can sit back and look at myself and say, people will look at me and they'll say, boy, you act just like your daddy. Boy, you look just like your daddy. Oh, you always do it like your daddy. But my father didn't speak like I speak. And he did not know how to necessarily cut you up with his tongue and his words. I got that from my mother. And while I was saying that I wasn't going to be like that, or I didn't want that, I find myself being like that. And so when I said I wasn't going to be like my father, like, man, he don't talk right, from the Magnolia Projects in New Orleans. So we never went to the store and bought Wesson oil. It was Wesson Earl. You know, he didn't want, it wasn't that he didn't want onions in his food. He didn't want no onions,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. You know, I didn't have math homework. I had a math lesson. You know, I couldn't wear tennis shoes. They was tinny. And so I was like, man, I don't even want to talk. I don't want him talking like that in front of my friends because I'm like, man, this dude can't talk, right? We didn't go to Burger King. It was Burger King, you know? And so I was so embarrassed by that. But now I'm 45. And when I measure at the end of the day, what have I produced at 45 that my father produced? I don't measure up. See, so now I'm saying like, man, maybe I should have paid more attention, you know, and I should have been looking at the right things, not the wrong things, you know. And even with my mother, there were things she tried to teach me, and she would say, I don't even know why I'm telling you, you're not going to listen, you know. And I would say to her, well, if you know I ain't going to listen, why you
Why
saying
you
it?
telling me? I know.
I only did that on the phone. I didn't do that in person.
I know you didn't because you'd have been coming up off the floor.
She didn't take that, right? But Brother Ron, she was very good at it.
But you know what? Well, when you look at growing up and maturing, right? And so, and this is why I didn't want children either. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want children. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to have my own address and make my own rules. And that's what I wanted to do. But I did. I got married. The first time I got married, 22. Biggest mistake because I didn't even know who I was, right? I didn't even know my value. If you look at Proverbs 31, that lady in there, I became over time, right? But I wasn't ready at 22. So that marriage lasted about 9 years. I have 2 beautiful children. If it hadn't been for the beautiful children, 2 daughters, I wouldn't even remember being married to that man. I'm just saying. But
wait, I gotta stop you. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the comments, right?
oh, I can't see the comments, so.
Because Will said you didn't want to be married, you didn't want any children. He said you did.
And
you didn't want them.
Right? That was when I was young, boy. You here now. Don't get intimidated. Don't feel unwanted. You're here now. Anyway. But and he's my pride and joy. He says, wait a minute. He says he's not the favorite, that Ebony's the favorite. See, he's jealous. He's just the baby. He the baby. See.
And I
he's
can
the
say
baby.
this,
They
right?
always say that Ebony's the favorite.
Let me say this to your children. Just take this from your cousin, right? Looking from the outside in. Every single one of you has a role in your mother's life, I'm telling you, right? And she'll call you for your role. Trust me, all of you are her favorites.
That's why I keep trying to tell him. But anyway, so he's just jealous. But bottom line, I know what he's posting, stupid stuff. But anyway, bottom line is that you need time to grow. And if you are married, right, you need to know, I feel, because of that community environment that you would have known the parents, you would have known the grandparents, you would have known the brothers and the sisters and the cousins. Now you don't know these people. So I tell mine all the time, you make sure you go to a funeral and a family reunion before you say yes. Because you want to see who you're marrying. You're not just marrying that one person. So because you're not coming up from the same hood, you got to know more than what your feelings are. because you're going to marry that person grew up in a different environment. And so
Now,
that's what happened with me and the first husband. Because
so now that's an excellent point, right? So if your only experience was your first marriage, then it would be understandable if you say, man, I don't never want this no more, and because it didn't turn out the way you dreamed things should go. You now saying that, hey, if you all are talking about getting married, there is a method to picking a mate and choosing a mate. And it was one of the things that we were not taught in slavery on the plantation was the science of mating. We didn't learn that.
No.
We just think you got to look good and we got to be attracted to you. But we were never taught partnership. And when you have to look at the root base of each other, where you come from, where I come from, and I said this, there was a young man that told me he was interested in one of my daughters. This was some years ago. And I told him, I said, you really are a good little brother, man. I said, you really are. I said, but you come from a single parent home. She doesn't. And I said, what you have to understand is that she sees things. She sees that you have a role and responsibility because she sees her father having that role and responsibility. I said, but in your home, your mama has that role and responsibility unless she gives it to one of you. I said, that's going to drive my daughter crazy because she's going to be wanting to know why you just don't do it. Why do I always have to? Well, I said, then you're going to start arguing.
Yeah.
And so that was the only advice I could give him, that there's some type of compatibility that you have to look for. Do you think, not knowing that, do you think that can make some women not want to get married, and men?
Well, I see. Yes, it just depends. It depends because I just told you that I didn't want to be my mother. I just told you that I didn't want marriage or children. I didn't want that responsibility. But some people dream of want to be a mother and just want children, right? I'm glad I have Will too. But anyway, I'm just saying that they will, in my mind, go after the dream, and it don't matter who fills the shoes. And I'm saying that's why it's so easy when it doesn't work. You can't change that person into your dream, and so it's not going to work. It's just not going to work, and they're quick to quit. You're quick to quit. But if you have your information, hang out with the family, because especially on a brother, you want to make sure you understand how he treats his mother. Because if he treats his mother bad, he ain't gonna never respect you.
You ain't got a shot.
So these kind of things, right? So even if you get married young, you just got to have a process. And again, don't be jumping about no feelings, because he look good today. He ain't gonna look good at 72. He's not. And he ain't gonna make you feel like you think you should feel at 72. He just not. There's gonna be some changes that come with age. And so in age, when you age in a relationship, in a marriage, in a commitment, you're gonna age together. Now, me and Brother Mann, I say Brother Mann, Papa, I'm gonna tell you anyway, we are completely different. You know it. We're completely different. Completely different personality, complete. But we complete one another. You get what I'm saying? So some people say you gotta have stuff in common. You gotta have. The one thing that I looked for the second time around was character and commitment, and a display of being that person, no matter where. Don't put on no act. So I had to be around him a little bit, right? I knew him even when I was married before, but it's how he treated my kids. Because when we got married, he married a woman with two daughters. So I had to make sure how he hung out with my daughters, right?
That's right.
And let me tell you what caught me.
Wait, did y'all hear that? Can you say that again, please? Because this is another issue that we see coming up in our community. Women are not vetting these men in terms of how they behaving around their children. Can you say that again for us?
Well, no, again, It's the character, right? So I had to see how, and I'm gonna tell you about kids. Kids know, they can
Yes.
sense
Yes.
something
Yes.
being right or wrong. My girls were crazy about him, and I'm watching him. Okay, and I'm watching how they respond to him and how he responds to them. I'm watching them, right? And so, and we used to hang out all the time, but hang out as a family. We were all together. So when we got married, and he told me, he says he was 33 when we got married. How old was I? 30? No, he was 35. No, I don't know. I was 30. We got married in 82. So I don't know. He was old. Anyway, I was I was 32. Anyway, so bottom line is when we're never gonna divorce. There's no quitting. And I said, because I had been divorced, right? And so he says, when we get married, that's it. We're gonna be old together in a rocking chair. We're gonna be together. Now that statement stayed with me all the time, no matter, because we still had to grow together, right? We still had to grow together because he had been listen, he was single until he was 35. So what does that mean? It was all about him. Right? You taking care of yourself. So and I have to say this part, he gonna probably be mad. But anyway, so I came out of a marriage that I had to handle the money. I had to handle the money. And so when I married him, you know, I got distrust when it comes to money. So we didn't pull no money together. Oh no, I wouldn't give him my check and he ain't gonna give me his. So we had to come up with, well, how are we gonna do this? Well, he's still old school. So I already had a house. He came in, he says, I'm paying everything. You just go on and buy the food and your bills. I got this. Well, okay. Ain't nobody ever said that to me before. So he started off as a strong person, a strong being that demonstrated, and had known him for a while, but he lived in Detroit and came back to Compton, right? But it was more than just me, you know, being attracted to him. It was his character that drew me to him, right?
You know, Shanika made a comment, right? She said you were blessed with a father like him. And I think that's so key because I'm hearing what you're saying, right? You say he was old school. He can't say, man, I'm paying the bill. Right. You know, and you already said that was your father. Like, I'm going to work, pay the bills, you know, take care of my children, take care of my house. See. And so having had gone through, you know, a relationship that didn't pan out the way that you thought it would, helped you to actually see the value in your father and even in choosing a mate, right? So did you see yourself at any time after that being more like your mother?
I did as I got older. Now let me tell you. Now keep in mind, like I said, I worked from clerk typist to the senior vice president at my job, right? So I had to work my way up because I didn't have all the degrees. I got certified as I went along, right? They paid for everything I needed. So, and back in those days, you could go to trade school and get in work. You'd be pretty good at it, right? So what I had to do was I had to work. And then, of course, my first husband, he'd quit a job every month. So that's why I said there's some things that I had to do. So I didn't see myself as my mom until I valued her because like I told you yesterday, my mother's purpose in life was keeping kids. She loved kids. I don't care whose kid it was. Everybody knew Big Mama, right? And you remember Big Mama. Everybody knew Big Mama. And so babies was like her purpose. And when she got sick, when she started getting, you know, dementia a little bit, and then her physical ailments, her soul was dying because she felt she didn't have a purpose. Yeah. Because she could not keep the babies anymore. She kept every one of the babies, all my kids. She stayed with me so I could work them 12 to 14 hours and sometimes 7 days a week. So I worked, right? I had baby. The only time I was off was to have baby, go back to work. So I didn't become my mother and value that until I started really preparing the holiday meals. And I told you all that. And then and seeing the kids and being, I was still, I guess I really turned into my mother, not to all the way though, because still kids get on my nerves sometimes, but not all the way. But you can't replace the relationship. I think when I my first granddaughter, I'll say that, she'll be 31 sometime or another. Anyway, so when she came, it was different. I said, oh, it was like I'm not responsible for, well, I was because she was born in my house. But either way, it was a different kind of love, right? And then when I got great grandkids, it's even to the 10th power, even greater. That's when I started wanting to be my mom, because I wanted to keep them. As long as I could send them home, I was willing to keep them and feed them, dress them, as long as they can go home. But anyway. So, but my mom would keep them all the time. So as far as wanting to be my mother, no, but some of the values that she taught us visually, just by being her, I always had it. I always had those values, right? So.
And it really is, even for your children, your great-grandchildren, the beauty of having their grandmother and great-grandmother into adulthood. Because many, I didn't, but many who did and they do, it's the maturity. You really start to see that value in them. Right. Again, everybody, thank you for watching. Please continue to share it in the groups, invite other people. I mean, the information is just invaluable, but it's just knowledge if you don't use it. Knowledge is what you know. Wisdom is the proper application of what you know to use to get to what you desire. So share it, because there's a lot of wisdom in this, so that others can take this into their lives as well. Sandria Cardwood said to tell you that Pookie said hi. All right.
That's from the first husband. That's my cousin, though. Once you family, you family forever.
That's right.
Okay, because I'm gonna tell you, my father-in-law, Perk, we called him Perk. My dad died when I was married to Kenny, and he became my dad. He stepped in there and was my dad. He was the best dad. I mean, so and then when you grow up with cousins, my sister-in-law, my brother, they're still my family. That's still, right. In fact, my ex-husband moved back to Texas, right? And him and his wife live about 2 miles from me. So it is what it is. Like I said, if it wasn't for them kids, I wouldn't even remember him being my husband. But anyway.
So now let's look at this generation. Okay. So now we go from and it's moving forward pretty fast. But today we see, even in music, it's talked about, it's on television, it's in movies, and it's presented in the public eye as that the strength of a woman, a single Black woman with children, is to just handle her business, pay her bills, and, ain't no man gonna control me. And there's a focal point that is put on oppression as opposed to a role to play for the community, right? So Big Mama babysitting everybody, right? Not just in her bloodline, but everybody.
Everybody.
And, we can call them, or some of them, the midwife. Matter of fact, you said it was your grandmother was a midwife.
I found her books.
I mean, I'm looking at this thing, and the beauty of that someone who understands that there is a role to play in the development of a child and a family, eventually a home, a block, a neighborhood, it continues to expand. But to the young girls, and even those in their 30s and 40s that say, man, I'm happy. I'm fine, just like this. I don't ever want this. I don't ever want that. Do you think that they may have had a poor example by someone, or do you think it was the same thing that I suffered from, that you said you saw yourself dealing with? We really didn't look at our examples properly.
No, I think it's different. I'm gonna tell you what happened along the way. Kids start having kids. There's no
Okay.
sage, there's no sage
Oh,
generation anymore.
okay. I see where
And
you.
because kids are raising kids, right? You can go
I
three
see.
generations and they're like, bap, bap, bap. There's no sage, there's no wisdom. They're teaching themselves. So
Mm.
what has to happen is folks like me getting in your business, and I don't have a problem with telling you stuff
No, she
because
does not.
I don't, because I figure God has me here still on assignment. My assignment is trying to bridge that the lost generations in there. That's why I said we missed generations, and so when they became grown too soon, and I'm gonna say that because, well, no, they didn't even become grown. They kept being kids. They just have kids, right? You
Hmm.
just kids having kids. So it's not that they saw an example, and you can't be what you can't see. If you haven't seen it, you can't be it. So it behooves us, the ones that have been around the block a couple of times, to take notice and take the time and don't just cast out. So that's why I love being in Eastern Stars. I'm glad that it's a wide range of ages
Hmm.
now, because before it was just old people did it, right? But I have people that that come to me, like when you mentioned the financial advisor, I said, look at him. But anyway, I've been in investments, right? And I've lived through going through debt repair, as far as because I had the mindset, I'm by experience, you have the mindset that I work for my money, I'm gonna live. No, you can't think like that, because there's always the next day. If God blesses you with 3 score and 10, you Social Security ain't even gonna be there in a minute. The way to just
Right, right.
do it.
That's right.
So I'm saying this. I'm saying that the ones that know better and have some now, you can't just tell me what to do. You can't tell me without living it, right?
Hmm.
I'm not gonna try to tell you to pull that skirt down. put put the long pants on and stuff like that, unless and if I got mine way up to mine, I'm almost 80 years old. You can't give advice that you're not living, and they can see
Hmm.
that and sense that. And what I found out, there's a lot of them that's hungry for that sage, that wisdom, and if even if they don't listen, mine half the time don't hear me. I think they don't, but later on, oh, okay, they were listening. My niece, the
Hmm.
same way, because I would gave Ebony and Albany, not Albany, Amber, when they
Hmm.
first start working, I said, get your 401, put your money in there. You never made no money before, so go on and take that 10%, put it in. Forget about it, and you'll
Hmm.
be millionaires when it's time to quit work. Right? Don't even look at it. And how to budget. I mean, you can't live check to paycheck. You can't do it, right?
Right.
And think it's going to continue. Because look what happened. To no fault of anybody, this pandemic came and the jobs are shut down. And now
Yeah.
everybody's food lines. Give me a
It's,
break.
it's
I say
scrambling.
there's no emergency. There's never an emergency if you plan for one. If you have an emergency fund,
Mm.
always, right? And the hot water
Mm.
heater go out, that ain't an emergency. You just go get the money and get you a new hot water heater. But if you ain't got no money, that's an emergency, because you got to go borrow it or something, right? So you got to plan your life. Ain't nobody controlling nothing but you. And the largest room on earth is the room for improvement. And that's in a couple as well. If you just, when you mentioned the people married for 50 years, learn something in that workshop, in that retreat, that's
Hmm.
because they're open. You can't be
Mm.
a person that think they know everything, because you're not, right? So you
Right.
may not experience, you might come into some new experiences as you've been with a person. You have to be
Hmm.
open to learn, because the largest room on earth is the room for improvement, period.
Right. No, I agree. And you all, I'm gonna tell you now, I'm gonna do a meme of you, so don't be mad, right?
What?
But this, I'm gonna take a picture and I'm gonna put this quote on it because I really think it's important. And you've said it to me. There's never an emergency if you plan for one. You
If you
know,
plan.
it's I mean the wealth of or the value of that in that statement and understanding, you know, what you've given in that it's just huge. There's Sister Gloria Hawkins. She said you rock. Uh, Angela
She
Brewster
calls me
Methodist.
doctor now, so now I'm a
She's
doctor.
bearing witness to you. Tiffany Nyler's bearing witness to you as well. Um, thank you all for watching. Please continue to share it, share it, share it. So now here you mentioned it, and this is why I say financial advisor. See, and I know y'all listening. See, I know you know what I'm talking about, right? So she's telling you she didn't go to college for these things, but she worked in the bank, man. But look, first of all, when you work in the bank, we ain't talking about, you know, we ain't talking about just the teller. I was a bank
I
teller
didn't work
my
in the
senior
banking
year of high
system. I
school,
work in wealth management.
and so there was it used to be Security Pacific National Bank, right? So I think all of, well, I know everybody in my house, we all worked for them. I was the last one. It was my senior year of high school. But I know my sister Tasha did. I know my sister Val did. I know my mother did. I know my father did. You did. My Aunt Helen, my grandmother, my Uncle Kevin. You know, it
Deborah
was
did.
like,
Rosalind did.
yes, it was like the post office for us. You know, they say, man, it's work at the post office. I don't know why everybody ran the security bank. But you lasted longer than anybody out of all of the people that we knew. You lasted longer and in financial services and wealth management than any of the rest of us. And just the fact that these people call you back, even though they know you've retired, and they say, listen, we in this gym, we can't get out of this. You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of like when you have you watch those movies and they say, well, we got to go in behind enemy lines, you know, let's put our team together. And so, you know, they call Sister Mann, hey, let's call her. Yeah, hey, nobody's going to be able to do that better than her. How do you bring that into the home? And did you see your mother dealing with the finances in the home um, in any way?
No, my dad took care of the money, period. My mother did not work until I think she had a job one time or maybe twice in my life. And that was like just to have some change. She wanted to get out the house. I told her she got a little independence when she got her driver's license. So she was like a CNA nursing home thing, and somebody died on her shit and she never went back. And then she went to, remember at
Wow.
Washington, I don't know you remember, at Washington High School, they had adult school classes that you can learn a
Okay.
trade. So she did a soldering or something to make these little radios, little radios.
Really?
Her mother died, and my dad went to pick her up from her job to tell her that my grandmother died, and she quit that job. So she didn't need no jobs, right? So I'm just saying that my mother never handled money, right? My dad did. But going to your question about my kids, I've advised what I've learned, because I worked, like I said, I worked in wealth management. The reason why I lasted a long time with the bank is because I didn't do the same job. I got in like Pac-Man. I wanted to know everything. I'm a nosy person, and everybody tell you I am, and I have an analytical mind. And when I got in, I would do a job a year. I said, oh, this is enough. I know I can do more. So I did, and I was for the money. And I would tell everybody, I don't work for no title. I don't work because I love to work. I work for the money. So I was able to negotiate as I went. So what I wanted to do is find what area of the bank paid the most money. I was in operations. I said, no, I know we were on the lowest pay. So I did it with intention, within very strategic. What I did was target where I wanted to be. Now they were all related. Like I went to systems. Well, what I did was when I became a manager, I would change things, and I was the subject matter expert on the business side until they realized that they couldn't, on the system side, they couldn't find anybody with the business knowledge, but they could hire in the technical field. So I became they came to me. I've never applied for a job at any bank. They came to me and asked me, did I want to do that? And I was tired of managing in operations. Your mother was a manager then. I said, I'm tired of babysitting grown folks. I'm just tired. So I went there. And so now I'm on the system side. So I learned a whole nother group, right? And so I was a project manager, a business analyst. I did all that. And then, but I was certified as I went, more things in my little toolkit, right? And then what happened, I came back to the operations side to support a new system, right? And then I said, this ain't enough money for this headache. We're working in Glendale. And I wanted to get closer to home, well, the commute, right? So that's when they put, what is that train from not Amtrak, what is it? Anyway, whatever the train.
Metro?
Not Metro, the one that did, they left at a Union Station going all the way out to the Ontario and stuff. Not like the blue lines and the red lines, but anyway, I forget the name of them. Anyway, bottom line is they had, the last train that left out of downtown Los Angeles was 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that, to get on my stop in Ontario. So I was forced to leave work. So one of my friends worked over there, and he says, come work over here. Okay. So I learned a whole nother, that was a subsidiary. That was bank, well, it was Bank of America. No, it's CPAC. So anyway, bottom line is it was in investments, and I learned how to do performance measurement and composite statistics and all this stuff. So I kept adding to my tool chest, right? And so then when the merger came with Bank of America, they just picked all of us up and came over here, and I continued in that same vein. And then when they had the merger with out here, the Nations Bank, and they bought Bank of America.
Right.
And so I said, well, so I was, God is just amazing. Anyway, so Dallas, Texas is where their operations was, right? And systems. So I said, okay, now that would get me close to my mama, and I ain't got to pay nothing. So that's what happened. So then I came out here and I worked in systems, and I also worked in operations again. The bottom line is every time I moved, I negotiated for higher money. Because in most cases, they were asking for me. And I know value. Going back to value, you got to know your value. Women got to know their worth. Scripture tells us that we're supposed to be able to handle the money. We're coming in 100. And I say this to my kids all the time. They'll probably, if you talk to them, you can't be 50% and 50%. I don't believe 50-50. I believe 100 and 100. And the reason why I said if I'm a whole person, I'm looking for a whole person. I can't fix no 50% Negro. I can't. So if you're broken, why are you looking for somebody else broken and think you're gonna be whole? It don't work like that. So you gotta know who you are. You gotta know your value. You're not gonna have nobody cuss you out. You're not just gonna do it. Not if you know who you are. But you got to know who you are. And that's why I tell my daughters, maybe that was wrong. I said, but I've always taught them, you gotta be able to take care of yourself.
Because that's really where I was going with that, because these people called you, right? They called you to come in there, and there's two things in that I'm seeing. One, you're dealing in wealth management. You're dealing with wealthy people and they all their money, right?
Yeah.
So these are people that got more money than you, but they want you to make sure that they don't run out of the money. Okay. And the other side of that is and I've said this so many times, the most sought out woman in America on every level, from the lowest to the highest, is the Black woman. And it's because even the enemy knows your value.
Right.
But when you don't realize how valuable you are, you cannot negotiate your way through life.
You got to know your worth to get
right.
And you got to know where you're going. Now, everybody doesn't have the same goals. From the last day I worked, I worked for money. I don't care what you call me. You can call me VP, SVP, AV. I don't care what you call me. Just pay me, pay me. And so that's, and every manager I had knew how to motivate me. So, because I know my worth, right? So, and you want to be in a position, and you have to stand on your own 2 feet. You got to be worth that. You have to know not only, but it got to be more than a talk. You have to be, number one, when you're not in the room and deals are made, your name gets brought up. You don't have to be there. So that means you got to network. You got to know people. They got to know you and your worth. And then when something comes up, because you're not going to always, I don't go golfing out there where they make them deals. But if something comes up, my name gets mentioned. And that's how I get in place. I've never asked for no transfer, no job, no nothing. They came at me, and then I said, okay, what is it worth?
You know, there's something that I also, and it was something you said earlier, and I want to bring it back to parallel with exactly what you're talking about, right? So, and this is again, we still dealing with Black Lives Matter because I really want, you know, women to understand the value of being a wife. And because I don't properly understand it, but I do know I benefit from being in a family where both parents were there. Right. I know my children have benefited from a family where both parents are there. I don't have the answers and all the science on it, but I know that there's a recipe, you know, that you gotta follow, and you can, you know, if you can add the nuts and whatever to it later. But there's a core, there's a commonality that has to be there. Now, you said your father wanted a wife that he could train into the woman that he wanted. But it was your father that took you to your first job.
Yeah,
and so do you think that he saw something in his daughter that he knew that if she's going to be happy, if she's going to be successful, I better take her to get a job, or let me show her that she has to start earning some money. She got to start.
Yeah, he did. And not only that, but keep in mind, I keep telling you what kind of father he was, right? He always thought I was going to be a helpmate to the main moneymaker. So that's what he saw. You can be a helpmate. So your little flowers can't beat your husbands, right? I'm trying to tell you, my dad was a hot mess, but that's how he grew up. That's what his thinking was. And I'm thinking I'm gonna do. I love money. I'm thinking all of us together, we get this money. I mean, we can have some security. Not for just one thing. So I've never been a mere materialistic person, but I never wanted to live check to check. I've never wanted to want something and couldn't get it, right? So, and then I always wanted my kids not to have to worry, because I've had friends where, you know, they get evicted, and I just wanted security. My whole thing was being secure, right? So, but my dad, no, he didn't. Yeah, he did, because keep in mind, I'm the oldest. Everything is God's plan, right? If I'd have been the baby, probably wouldn't worth nothing. But because I was the oldest, he gave the responsibility. He used to, and I'll tell you one other thing I didn't tell you yesterday about my dad. He would eat no matter what we cooked. I could cook something and he would come up with a big old ball of seasoning, because I told you I was a reader, so I used to read. And he said, baby, next time stir your seasoning up in it, you know. But he would eat anything that we cooked, because he wanted to encourage us to cook, right? Wow. He wanted us to learn from mama. But I had a book all the time and I burned the food, so it just didn't happen until later. He told me, he said, you stay in that kitchen. It didn't matter. I stayed in the kitchen, to be right in the kitchen, the food burned. But anyway, because I was always reading. I've always been a reader. So anyway, bottom line is, I think what he saw was, he probably saw himself in me. Because my father never went for the norm. My father was the first Black DJ in San Diego ever.
Man,
He
come
was
on.
he got a Snoopy Award for being in aeronautics. He worked on the first Apollo spaceship, and I
Come on.
got the award from the astronaut and the Snoopy Award for him. He was always the only
Come on.
black in everything. He was an achiever, but he died when he was 48, right, with a
Mm.
massive heart attack. That's when he became the manager of my uncle, right? He
Oh,
quit
wow.
the job because he wanted to get rich, right? He was about money. So he wanted to get rich. So he quit the job and became a producer and manager of my uncle.
And for those that don't know, tell them who your uncle is.
ZZ Hill.
Y'all know Down Home Blues, right?
So my
the
dad was
great
Matt Hill. Yeah.
the great ZZ Hill, her father's brother. Okay, so this is uncle by blood relation. Um, so now in that, okay, and this is something I got. Well, let me back up. Let me say this to the husbands, to the fathers, to the men, who are watching, and I guess to the women. You can see if you see it in the man. But she said that her father, she believes that he may have seen himself in her, so he helped to guide her along to be successful. And pay attention to your children. Watch your children and see what you see, because you know that they half of them is you and the other half is the other parent. And so you got to understand what you're looking at. It's normally the times of where we don't like something. We say, he act just like you. She act just like you. And the things that we like, then we like to say, that's my baby. That's my baby. But you have to, I think that's really key though, especially as a father, you to help set your daughter up properly, and being that example, a man that not just worked, took pride in working, took pride in taking care of his family, and was successful at it. Okay. Now, when I said to some brothers a few days ago, I said, when I looked at the productivity of my father at 45 and then myself at 45, I was like, yo, I don't match up to him. And it wasn't that I surpassed him. I almost feel like, man, I'm not even close, right? And so I can say that growing up, we were never evicted. We didn't understand that, like, our parents didn't have a lot of money. We didn't even know that,
Right.
We
Right.
we just thought, it was when they said, no, I don't have no money for that, okay, go in the room and play one of them 100 toys you got. It was just like, and I saw them do things, growing up, but I never saw my father have to take a city bus to get anywhere.
Right. Right.
He always had a vehicle. And even when he said, I don't have no money, it wasn't that he didn't have no money, he just didn't have money he was giving me for whatever I was asking for. But he had enough.
They had a entrepreneur spirit to your mother.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they had a beauty supply place. They would all, I mean,
Yeah.
she was a go out and try things, right? And he supported her in everything she wanted to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I miss them.
And I
But let me
think
tell you,
part of it,
it's almost it is 9 o'clock. But I wanted
it's
to
not.
say this because I don't want anybody to think I know I'm a strong woman, and it takes a strong man to be with a strong woman,
Yes, yes.
right?
That's where I was
So
going. That's where I was
so
going.
I just want people to know that every woman, no matter how she may appear, recognize that she's not whole. She needs that other 100%.
Yes.
She's 100%. We bring it to the table and we create a life that I think is worth it. My kids, we have our own traditions. And like we mentioned yesterday, I said we were going to sell the house, and the kids told me, you can't sell a house. Don't nobody live there, But anyway, but what we do, we have family traditions, and with him, and if he's not here, it ain't right. It's off, right? So what I'm saying is that yes, I know it's a lot of people. You just know. I know I'm strong, but it takes a strong man.
That's right.
For us to be together. Actually, total, he say 39 years, but yes, we've been married
Right.
38 years. So And until I mean, and we don't look alike. We don't look. Wait a minute. We don't look like we did when we got married. He had hair, and I think he's the best looking man walking. So what can I say?
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm saying, if you truly find your mate, God is matching you to fill in that hole that would not be filled if you didn't find the right mate. That's all I got to say.
That's right. No, and I'm so glad you said that, because that was my next. That's where I was going with next. And I was just going to give from my own personal experience, just being around you all, growing up with you. And even now as an adult, I'm watching and I see you all different now than I did, as a teenager and growing up. And I totally 100% wholeheartedly agree that it takes a strong man to be with a strong woman, and an even stronger man in my mind to be successful with that strong woman. Mm-hmm. So I don't want anyone to walk away with the idea of thinking that you have to downplay your own God-given gifts and ability to please your spouse. You do not. But I also learned later on in my 30s, when as a teenager, I thought Martin Luther King was this weak man for sitting there, let people pour milkshakes on him. And why are you telling people don't do these things? And then I thought about it. I said, how much strength does it take for a man to stand there and say, I know you shouldn't be hitting me. I don't want to be hit. I really want to take your head off, but I'm going to stand here and take it. And I'm not going to show any reaction. That strength most of us don't have. Some of us don't even attempt to have it. But I also know that it's strength in a man that says, you come to my door one more time with that mess, and it's going to be the last time you come to my door, and he means it. So I know both of those are strength, but I want to say to all of the couples or anybody who may be thinking about getting married, especially if you are marrying a Black woman or you are married to a Black woman, don't look at what you think is a negative. Man, when you settle on the best part of her and you settle on her strengths, then you become stronger yourself. And so, and I can tell you, he was just yesterday, he was out working on the car, working on the truck, doing exactly what he loves to do. He's very handy, loves working on vehicles, motorcycles, repairing things, whatever. Absolutely loves it. But like she said, he's from Detroit. He ain't no fool, okay? And so you can step to him or misstep to him about him and his family, and you'll see might take one of them tools he working on that truck with and go upside your head with it. Right?
It takes a minute before he gets angry, but when he does, you know he angry. So
and there's strength in that.
Right.
But and you all, thank you for watching again. And I'm not going to hold you, because I'm going to tell you one of her other strengths. Now, we were supposed to be on here from 7 to 9, and she gave me a little bit of more time because she
5 minutes. It's time to roll. And I apologize for not being able to get on. I had to go to the phone. But I tried to get him to practice with me at 6:30, and he didn't. I want y'all to know I try to be prepared, because I believe time is valuable. We can't get it back.
And that's a strength. And thank you for that. Thank you for everything that specifically since I've come to Dallas, that you have done for me and my family, that you have given to me, the financial advice that some of you are hearing, that is repeat information for me. It was to the point I had to take notes. The relationship advice that helped me to see even my ex-wife in a better light because of what I was not doing, not what she was doing. It was what I was not doing. And even my children, to understand that my children are not rebelling against righteousness. They're rebelling against the unrighteousness they saw in their father. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know any words.
And I didn't know you were really listening. You good.
Oh, I was listening. I was listening. And with, My daddy used to say this: when we start talking to him, I'd go ask him something, and he had two sayings for me. He'd say, "Damn boy, the more I teach you, the dumber I get." Because I'm debating with him what the answers and the advice he's giving me why it ain't gonna work, you know. And the other thing he would say to me, he would say, "Well, do you want a doctor or a shrink?" And that was his way of saying, "Do you want me to just listen to you, or do you want me to help you?" So I'm learning, right? I'm learning that I know when I need a doctor, or sometimes I know when I need a doctor, and sometimes I know when I need a shrink. And you are both of those to me. You both of those to my family. My wife sends her love to you. Her all of her hugs. She behind me. She blowing you kisses right now.
Tell her I love her too. Tell her it's good for you to leave that open over here though.
And my children know that when they come here, if they can't find me, they know they can go to Auntie without hesitation. They know that. I mean, they know it. As a matter of fact, I think Mecca calls you
several times.
Yeah, she'll call, because they're comfortable, and they only do that with people they're comfortable with. Auntie Fran, I see Auntie Fran Murdoch Jones here. She says she loves us both and for the happy memories.
Bless God.
She's watching as well. All of you, thank you for watching. For the Marcus Jones, thank you for watching as well.
Oh,
yeah, they all on. They all on. I'm telling you, and for me, and some of them I haven't seen in years, but they are our extended family. And some of them have known me since I was a little boy. But thank you so much. And Black Wives Matter, y'all. You can also catch us. Come to, if you can't take the heat, and y'all heard this heat, right? If it got too hot for you, I understand why you left the room. You came back. But a diamond is made under intense pressure and heat. Other than that, you just be a lump of coal. But if you want to be a diamond, you got to take the heat. You got to take the pressure. So shout out again. Thank you to the State of the Black Race. You all go on there and visit State of the Black Race Dallas. Going to be in Dallas September 26th, 27th. Built Different Fitness. Thank you. Thank you at phonetap.com. That's phonetapped.com. Thank you. And visit our site to get the Black Wives Matter as well. And this is my own, I'm going to give my own personal, because this is important to me, that you heard her say that her and my mother both joined the Order of the Eastern Star together, right? As sisters, as friends. I'm going to say that it wasn't my parents, they had their issues early on. I was 13 years old when you all first did that. And it wasn't until then that someone could even get in my mother's ear about being a wife, being a mother, being a certain type of woman. And she could stand shoulder to shoulder with her friend and her sister who had been in similar situations, if not some of them were the same. Same high school. Shout out to the Washington High Generals, Wash House. But it wasn't until that my parents found something together where they realized that my father realized that his Black wife mattered, and she realized that her Black husband mattered, that they began to grow so much more than what they had done. So that's always going to be my shout out to the Masonic Lodge, specifically Mount Sinai Grand Council of Deliberation. I always got you in my heart. Always. And S is a charity number 721. Always. All of my aunties. All of you. I love you. I miss you. And I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you for watching. This is your brother, Chef Brandon. Come back next Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday on If You Can't Take the Heat. Another special guest. Love you, Auntie. Thank you so much.
Love you, nephew. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.